Hey there, Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. Welcome to day 204 of our Be a Better You annual challenge. Today we're talking about mental health, mental well-being, of course, and the impact of our identity and our ego on our mental health and well-being. Now, my ego probably doesn't want me to talk about this, but I'm going to, and I'll probably share a couple stories about how my ego has impacted me in the past. But today we're going to talk about that because I think it's part of our identity. Our identity is who we think we are in the world, how we see ourselves. It's the framework through which we define everything. We interpret our world through our own lenses, right? We see ourselves and the world in certain ways that are consistent with our identity, who we think we are in the big picture as well as who we think we are all the time. Our ego, although it gets a bad rap if it's overused and somebody's too egotistical or braggery or whatever we consider too much, but it's really the mediator between our inner desires, what it is that we want, and our external reality, right? If we're acting, I'm not even going to go into examples on this right now. Sometimes we tie our egos to things outside of us, though, and whenever we do that, we get into trouble. I'll share a story of, actually, I might wait and hold that off for Supersize Your Business, but I have a corporate executive friend that lost his job, and his entire ego and sense of self was tied to his job title and his career and the successful career he had. So when the company sold and was downsized, and I've experienced this as well, although it didn't impact my ego at all. It did the first time, but by the time the third layoff rolled around, or my company was sold, and I got let go, it didn't even bother me. And I remember my boss, when he was telling me he thought I would cry or something, and I'm like, I started laughing because he even said that to me. It's like, I thought you might cry or something because you're such an integral part of this place. And I'm like, no, I said, I've known it's coming for 8 months. I understand how to run a business. So I wasn't surprised at all. I said, everything's set in place for me to leave and my predecessor to take over. So bye. Good luck to you. I'm going to go work in my own businesses. So our identity, and I want to talk about our identity, and then, okay, we'll say what it is, and then I want to talk about how to shift it and why it's important to do an identity shift sometimes. Our identity, it's more than just a name or a title or a thing. It's the core framework that we use to interpret the world. It's how we'll even allow ourselves to show up in our own lives. Now, if we want to create our own lives and create the life we want and be a better version of ourselves, we need to take control of that process, right? Our identity has been shaped often up until this point where we think about our identity and a shift in our identity consciously. It's just been created ad hoc, right? It's kind of like a brand. Like my brand's been created online. I haven't intentionally done it. I just show up, I be myself, and that's what I want my brand to be. That's who I am. That's how I want to show up. Wasn't always that way, right? When I was in corporate America and running my businesses and raising my family, I was all about work, and I was not at all balanced. And not that I believe that balance is a thing. I think it's different for each of us. But my identity was tied up into being an entrepreneur and a corporate executive and a great mom, etc. What is an identity shift? An identity shift is when we consciously choose to make sure our identity aligns with who we want to be and how we want to show up in the world. I think that's the simplest way I can explain it. And how we create an identity shift, I'm going to share a 5-step process because I think it's that important. Common triggers for identity shifts are life transitions. If we get married, if we have a career change, if we become a parent, if we have a traumatic experience in our life, if we retire, those are all transitions that might trigger an identity shift. Who I was as a corporate executive is totally different than who I am now versus who I was prior to my sudden cardiac arrest. Totally different person. But that event caused me to have a huge identity shift, which was long overdue because I wasn't living in alignment with my core values, my beliefs, and how I wanted to be and show up in the world. Personal growth goals will also often trigger an identity shift. Developing confidence, pursuing new passions, changing careers, changing anything in our life often requires an identity shift. If we don't see ourselves as the person having, doing, and being the thing that it is that we want, we're not going to have it until we see ourselves and see that it's even possible for us. Recovery from trauma or addictions can also cause an identity shift. And also, it's essential. If you see yourself as a drug addict or a smoker or a drinker, until you change that identity, you're not going to let go of those habits because that's just who you are. I'm going to share Sarah's story quickly before I share the 5-step process to create and manage your own identity shift. And it's steps we've done before, so it won't be hard. Sarah went from people-pleasing to an empowering leader. Most of her life, she defined herself as the nice one. Anybody else the nice one? I never defined myself as the nice one. I'll never forget when a neighboring business owner and a friend of mine told me he always thought I was the quiet one of my sisters and I just broke up laughing because I used to never be the quiet one, and everybody used to, they had an expression when I would get upset, they'd say, "Pop the cork, Sharon," or Sherry, they called me. And I came to love but hate that. Anyway, when he told me I was the quiet one, I just lost it because I had never thought that I was viewed as the quiet sister. Her identity was rooted in external approval and validation. She figured if people didn't see her as the nice one, then she wasn't succeeding in her life, etc. Through identity work and self-reflection, which I shared this one because I want you to know that to change something in your life, you don't have to go out and get a coach or a counselor. You can do it. It might take you a little longer. It might be a little harder. But those changes that we make on ourselves are much longer lasting, and they're more powerful because we figured it out ourselves. And once we prove to ourselves that we can figure something out and change something in our life ourselves, it gives us massive personal power and control. She used to believe that she needed to make everyone happy, and she said, change that to, "I'm a confident leader who values authenticity." Her results? Her anxiety decreased, self-esteem soared, and she built a successful coaching business aligned with her values and who she really is, which made everything better. So what's this process for? I guess there's psychology behind our identity as well. And there's advantages to having our identity be aligned with our true self, who we really are, and our core values. That's why we talk about core values every month. It improves our decision making. It improves our resilience and our ability to bounce back after challenges. Because guess what? We're always going to have challenges. Our whole life, we're going to have things that come up that we didn't anticipate. And it helps to improve our relationships. If you're authentic in relationships, guess what? You're authentic in relationships, and people get who you really are and love who you really are. So how do we refine our identity for mental health and well-being? Number one, examine our current identity. What is our current identity? How do we see ourselves? Ask yourself some questions. Who do I believe that I am? What do I think I am? What do I think I stand for? What labels do I cling to? Grandma. I'm definitely grandma, right? And I love being a grandma. Do these labels align with your values and goals? Yes, because my job here on planet Earth is to positively impact the lives of my little human beings and those I love and care about the most. Second, identify your limiting beliefs. We've talked about limiting beliefs a lot this year, and we'll continue to do so for the rest of the year. If you don't know what your limiting beliefs are, just listen to the self-talk in your head, and you'll know pretty quickly. I'm not good enough comes up for probably 80+% of the population. Success means sacrificing happiness or sacrificing anything. I absolutely abhor the hustle culture because I used to live it and it didn't serve me very well. It drives me nuts when people are taught to believe that you have to hustle, grind to be successful, or that you have to sacrifice. That sacrifice is the most ridiculous word to me when it comes to building a business and creating the life that you want. Making a choice, I'm going to pontificate a minute, choosing something that's right for you is not sacrificing everything you say no to. It's like the old way of looking at opportunity costs. Well, we have to figure out the cost of every opportunity that we don't take. No, it's a waste of time and energy. Focus on what you're doing in the direction that you're going and let all the unnecessary nonsense fall aside. 3, visualize your future self. This is so powerful. We've talked about it this month, and we'll talk about it more again all year long, because visualization is such a powerful tool to help us create what we want. And when we ask our future self and the ideal version of our perfect self and who we want to be, how we would react, then we'll react that way now, and that brings us closer to that perfect self, not perfect, that future self, and before we know it, we are actually living the life that our future self wanted us to live. Take identity-aligned action. Take action that aligns with the identity that you want, right? The who you want to be in, a healthy person, and how you want to show up in the world. And finally, step 5 is to practice self-compassion. Guess what? Any change takes time. We don't necessarily make the right perfect action the first time. I don't like the word perfect either. There's no such thing as perfect. It's like so many things. Everything is defined by us. But it takes time, so embrace the process and progress and celebrate progress. Don't just beat yourself up if something doesn't go perfectly according to plan, because it almost never does. Now, I want to say a couple of words about ego mastery, because our ego, if we don't check our ego sometimes, and we all have egotistical moments, right? We all get our feelings hurt and things. But the fastest way to do that is to balance confidence with humility. And it is definitely a balancing act, because sometimes we need our ego to help us stand up and be who we really are. But there's ways to do that. And there's good ways to do that and bad ways to do that, right? Anything that harms other people, to me, is a bad way to do something. But if we detach from validation and outside approval, that helps us to be more confident and not have to resort to our ego. If we stay adaptable and flexible, if we identify what we want and we're moving toward that in a way that doesn't harm any other people, that's awesome. And we want to cultivate humility. Humility is recognizing that identity is a journey, not a fixed state. And so we're just going to work our way toward becoming the best possible version of ourselves, which is what this whole challenge is about. So what are we going to do today? We are going to do the identity shift 5-step process. 1, what's our current identity? And if it's appropriate and authentic for us right now, boom, you're done. Great. Just revalidate that that's true and you're on the right path. If it's not, if you feel like there's some areas of your identity that you've misidentified yourself because that's not who you are anymore, or that's not who you want to be, then do the rest of the process. Identify your limiting beliefs. We've done that before, so it should be pretty quick and easy. Visualize your future self. I'd say if you're going to spend time on anything the most, do it on step 3, visualizing your future self. Ask your future self. Make friends with your future self. Ask your future self, how would I act in this situation? And then act that way, because that leads to the next one. Take identity-aligned actions. And finally, be nice to yourself, right? Be kind. Treat yourself like you want other people to treat you. Treat yourself like you treat other people in a positive way. Treat people the way you want to be treated. How many times have I said that in my life? Probably thousands and thousands. All right. Any questions? Ask. Otherwise, go out and make it an amazing day. Work on that identity. Always be improving. And I will, of course, be with you tomorrow.